Hey everybody, Mike Guillaume from Sons of a Pitch Soccer Podcast, episode 141, coming at you live tonight on YouTube as well as Facebook. Nick, I think we might have everything solved now. I'm hoping, I'm knocking on some table, but I think we got it. How you doing tonight, man?
Don't jinx it. I'm doing great. And as wonderful as it is to have all the video and the tech stuff kind of worked out for now, it was good hiding my face for a little bit. I got to work on my tan a little. I'm not as orange as prior broadcasts. I'm not as pale as you often see me in the winter, but I'm happy to be back here, Mike. There's a lot of fun soccer to talk to. We got some MLS's back stuff to talk about. We have some listener and viewer questions and comments that we're going to touch on, a little USMNT towards the end of this episode, as well as we're going to run the whole gamut here tonight, Mike. We got some lower league soccer to shout out to tonight as well. So stay tuned for all of that.
All right, lots to talk about. Really exciting stuff tonight. The MLS is back tournament's been a lot of fun to watch, even though not so fun for me as a TFC fan last night, but that doesn't matter. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We got some social media shout outs. We got on YouTube. Thanks for subscribing, and definitely appreciate you guys subscribing. And for all of our viewers out there, make sure you subscribe as well to get into a $250 Visa gift card challenge. You'll see it here just on the side of the screen. If we reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the MLS is Back tournament on August 11, 2020, one subscriber will be randomly drawn to win that $250 Visa gift card. So get on that and hit subscribe and help us grow our business. Daniel Young says, NYCFC pull off the upset. Daniel, they did, and I am very glad that we did not do that live there because I did get a page right at halftime. I got a page and ended up not finishing the game till, it was probably about 1 o'clock in the morning. But well done to New York City FC on that victory. They looked very, very good, played extremely well, and TFC looked like absolute trash. We'll get into that even more in the towards the end here. But so Nick, take it for me, man.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Great to hear from you. A resident NYCFC fan. Want to thank Thomas Deshane and Fiddy Caliber, his handle, not the name I gave him, probably not the name his mother gave him either, for subscribing on YouTube. Also, thank you to The Chosen One and Roman Poblano. Shout out LAFC for leaving comments, as well as Zachary Wilson. Thank you to everyone who's been following us along on Twitter at SOP Soccer. Especially thank you to the MLS Extra Time host, Matt Doyle, for retweeting one of our tweets and getting us a lot of attention for a few minutes there, as well as thanks to the Soccer Cooligans for tweeting along and playing some good pun games with player names during the course of this tournament. So thanks to those big hitters. One last shout out I want to give for all our European fans. We know we've got some subscribers and listeners and friends overseas. And I'm a big Everton fan. Leighton Baines, one of the stalwarts of Everton's backline, announced his retirement today. So the Everton fan in me would be remiss if I didn't recognize Leighton Baines and thank him for helping me stay an Everton fan. So that's it. One last thing, Mike, almost forgot to mention, speaking of being overseas, we charted in Sweden last week. Can you believe that? Like, our podcast, get this, is the 250th ranked soccer podcast in all of Sweden. How about that?
Wow.
And thank you to Eric E. for leaving us a 5-star review on Apple. So Eric E., tell your friends in Sweden, help us climb the ranks over there. We're happy to give them and you a shout out, as well as continue to bring you all that great MLS content. So hello, Sverige. Hello, Sweden. And hope to hear from more of you in the future. Mike, you've been doing some picks and predictions videos. How have those been going for you?
Not so well. Picks and predictions have been a little rough. But you know what? There's no home field advantage going right now. It's a completely different world right now with the way they're playing. So, it has not been pretty. But I think this so far this week in the round of 16, I think I'm 2 out of 4. So I think I'm halfway there. Maybe even 3 out of 4. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember. But it is what it is. So trying my best over here. So if you guys check out my picks and predictions videos as well on YouTube and tell me what you think in the comments. A lot of people in the comments saying, hey, what about this? What about that? Oh, your pick was good. Your pick was bad. All that. So you know what? It's fun.
And that's what we want to do. We want to have conversations and grow the sport of soccer through conversation. So we appreciate everyone for following along at SOP Soccer on Twitter, at Sons of a Pitch Soccer on YouTube. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Follow along, have a conversation with us. And with that, we are going to go get into the heart of our conversation, some MLS headlines, as well as some other American soccer headlines later. But the biggest headline, Mike, has to be Frank DeBoer. Yeah.
DeBoer.
Frank, it doesn't matter anymore. He's not a coach here. I don't have to worry about saying his name anymore. That's the news, Mike. He and Atlanta United mutually parted ways in the wake of Atlanta's exit from the MLS's back tournament after losing 3 games, I think all by a score of 1-0. No goals scored, 3 losses, no points. DeBoer, Atlanta part ways. Mike, the only thing surprising to me was that they didn't fire him sooner than they had the conversation to mutually agree to part ways. What do you think about this turn of events for Atlanta United?
It's interesting. I mean, there was a lot of talk even last year towards the beginning of the season that, get rid of DeBoer out, whatever, all the hashtags and whatnot. I think they gave him some time. I think looking at how ugly this performance was, and everybody says, yeah, but they're 2-3 on the season because they did win their first 2 games. Yeah, those first 2 games were against a Cincinnati team that did not have Jurgen Locati in the lineup, and as well, they just fired their coach a couple days before that, and I can't remember who they beat in the second game, but not a great team. So they have not been playing well this season, and it's clear that there's issues in the locker room there. He's not getting the best out of his players. And if you're going to put up a performance like that, what's the point in holding on and saying, well, yeah, give it a shot for the rest of the year or whatever. Just move on. So that's what they did. You could tell right from the get-go that this hire was not going to work out for Atlanta United with DeBoer. So I guess better soon than later in that case.
Absolutely. And this is the perfect kind of fluke of a season to bring in a new coach and to have them kind of get acclimated to the MLS, to the team, or if they do look for someone outside of the United States, or even if it's someone within MLS or within the US, to have them acclimate to a season, to a club, to the league. This is the perfect time to do it. For me, he totally changed the style of play. They had no offense. And on top of it, his players were not motivated. They did not come ready to play. I mean, you have Peter Martinez and Ezekiel Barco, who are supposed to be the next big thing in MLS, if not world soccer to a certain degree. He couldn't even get those guys ready to play. He couldn't get them excited. The team come out flat. No one cared. Like, that is when you know the coach is being ineffective. Tactics, yes, that has a lot to do with it. Style of play, definitely a factor, a big factor in this. But when your players don't look like they care or want to be out there, that's on the coach. That's on the coaching staff. So not only is DeBoer out, he took 2 assistants with him. I should say Atlanta made him take 2 assistants with him. And now we've got Stephen Glass of Atlanta United 2 as the interim coach. Now, Mike, the other thing floating around with DeBoer's firing, mutually parting ways, whatever, is that, oh, come on, it's not his fault. Joseph has been out and Gressel and Nagbe were let go, not re-signed, whatever. Like, there was roster turnover. That's on management and ownership. That's not on the coach. How would you respond to that, Mike? What do you think about those kind of claims?
It's tough. I mean, it is on management, that's for sure. However, it's a tough one. I mean, there's full responsibility as a manager. That's just how it goes, and they've got to live it. So I don't really know. I can't. Part of me wants to put it on them, but the other part of me says, you know what? It's on, it's on both. It's a mix. I don't know. Just let them fight and figure it out.
Sure. I mean, for me, you don't take a team that is winning titles and then, losing 3 straight without scoring a goal just because of roster turnover. I think there are bigger issues there. And I think Atlanta did the right thing in moving DeBoer out. Oddly enough, though, here's his coaching statistics. Since he joined in December of 2018, he's got 31 wins, 5 draws, 19 losses. So he's got a 56 winning percentage, 56% winning percentage. Like, if you just look at his record, that's actually a decent record. I think there's a few other clubs in the MLS who wish they were winning half of their games, right? So you look at percentages, you look at statistics, you look at a lot of other things surrounding this Atlanta United team, especially 3-4 years from now, when who knows who's coaching and who knows what this squad's going to look like. They might be pining for the days of Frank de Boer. Kind of like the U.S. was like, well, maybe Klinsmann wasn't that bad when we see what we've gone through the last 3 or 4 years. So time will tell, but in the immediate sense, I really think this was what needed to happen. This team had no edge. Like, teams were not scared to play them. They definitely needed to move on.
Yeah,
any final thoughts on Atlanta, or where do you see them going from here?
Definitely the right time for it too. After you get knocked out of a tournament. As far as where they go from here, I would say they got to bring somebody in. I would bring somebody in that has MLS experience instead of the big flashy names in Europe. I would go the route of I know they've thrown a few names out there, but that's I'm saying get somebody with MLS experience, even if it's not a big name. Or there's always the option with them to find somebody that's, in South America.
That was going to be my question to you, Mike. Like, do you think they need to have someone who can connect with South American players, or do you think you just need to have a coach who can bring back that attack-minded, goal-scoring kind of approach that Atlanta United loves?
Well, I think they have a very heavy roster, South American roster. So yeah, it probably would be a good move to go that route. But I really think in MLS you got to have somebody with MLS experience. So maybe somebody that's in MLS that can relate, that has some experience in South America, kind of get the best of both worlds, right? Somebody that's very familiar with MLS and can get the best out of those South American players that they already have. So that's kind of my thoughts there. Daniel Young comes in with a question saying, what coaching candidate is best for Atlanta? Nick, have you seen the list there of coaching candidates that they kind of come up with?
List. No, I haven't seen the list, but I've seen the joke that how much is it going to take to buy out Oscar Pereja from Orlando and bring him to Atlanta? I do like your take on it, Mike, but it's almost like you're hiring and looking for a unicorn, right? Like, you want the guy with 10 plus years of experience who has management and ground level experience and is willing to do the job for $30,000 a year and put in 15 hours a day, right? Like, everything we're kind of talking about, and soccer fans do tend to get into this. I mean, you're looking for the unicorn. I don't think you're going to find that perfect candidate out there. Let's see how Stephen Glass does. He's the Atlanta United 2 academy coach, or not academy coach, the USL coach. So he knows the organization. He knows the system. He's been part of that culture. So we'll see how he can rally the troops here. If he does a great job, then Atlanta, maybe they keep him. Or maybe he goes to another club and gets a shot moving up the ranks. But I have not seen the list, Mike. I don't know if you've seen anything along those lines and can give Daniel Young and everyone else kind of a taste of what's to come.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple guys on the list that really stand out to me. Renato Gaucho is apparently still under contract at Grêmio in Brazil, but he is kind of a possible look there as well. You've got a couple other guys on the list here, but nobody that really has any South American flair. But you've got Mauricio Pochettino. There's your big name, former Tottenham coach. But out of the list that I see here on MLS Soccer, I'm not really liking anybody that I'm seeing on the list, other than possibly Patrick Vieira with what he did for New York City. So he's got the MLS background. But yeah, that I would say if I had to pick one off of the list from MLSsoccer.com, it would be Renato Gaucho, the Grêmio manager there in Brazil, just because that lineup is so stacked with South American talent. But that's all I can think of. So Daniel, thanks for that question there. Appreciate that in the chat. And anybody else that has anything here for the chat, let us know, and we'll put it up here on the screen with this cool new feature that we've got here, and we'll talk about it. So
I'm sure Daniel Young, our New York City guy, would love to see Patrick Vieira come back to another team, right? I mean, that's like going back to your ex-girlfriend. Like, Vieira's like, cool, New York, you helped me realize and build some confidence. Like, attractive people want to date me. I'm going to go over to Europe now and go date some European women. Oh, maybe I will come back to the US. I don't know. Like, that's kind of what it is to me right now. I don't think Vieira's coming back as interesting and fun as that would be for fans of MLS.
Agreed. So next up, what do we got next?
Yeah, I want to get your take on this, Mike. It's obviously there is no medium, there is no middle ground in American soccer social media or internet opinions. But Charlotte FC, the official new name for the expansion side, Charlotte FC. Their new logo, newly minted, and their new crest was revealed. A beautiful circle crest with the crown in the middle, blue and silver colors with black accents. A lot of people love it. A lot of people hate it. Mike, what's your take on this? We don't have to spend too much time on fluff crest stuff here, but I just want to get your take on Charlotte FC's name and logo.
You know, I like it, man. I like the logo a lot. I think it's clean. The name, I don't know. I hate any time a new team coming in uses FC, just the city and FC. Like Toronto did that a while back, and now a lot of clubs are going that route. But you know what? That you're going to get that in soccer. But I like it overall. What are your thoughts?
I love it because I'm like a trivia nerd, fact history nerd, and Charlotte, North Carolina, named after the Queen back when it was a colony, so that's why Charlotte, and that's the crown. It's the same ownership group as the Carolina Panthers, same owner, David Tepper. So that's why they have it's the same colors as NFL's Carolina Panthers. I love that. And the phrase newly minted, people are like, what is this, supposed to be a coin? Well, yeah, actually, Charlotte had the first U.S. mint. So, yes, it is supposed to be a reference to coins, guys. So I'm trying not to be that guy, but it all fits to me. Like, it's a cool design, and it's got some cool history and trivia. I'm a fan of Charlotte FC. Maybe the name could have had a little work, but I'm not going to get picky about it. It's a solid name.
Yeah.
So with that, Mike, let's move a little bit away from the MLS and some of the major kind of soccer stuff going on here. We actually got a tweet from Small World Soccer at SMLWLD_official, asking us to kind of mention and talk a little bit about some of the lower leagues of American soccer, and we're happy to do that. So they reached out and said the NISL, the National Independent Soccer Association, is actually in the middle of the Independent Cup, and there are 4 geographic regions. I think it was Great Lakes, Northeast, Southeast, and Plain States. But go check out the website, nisaofficial.com, to figure out the groupings. They're actually in their own tournament right now, and they're crowning their first champion this Saturday. So go check out nisaofficial.com to check out some lower league soccer. And for me, I'm happy to plug it, and if I have the time, I'm going to watch it, because I think this is something uniquely American. You have these different kinds of tournaments. You know, we saw it in college basketball. There's at least 4 different college basketball tournaments now. Like, the MLS has a playoff system because of what's unique to American sports. And additionally, in American sports, you have several pathways to the pros. Typically, it's through an academy or through the draft, but now you have all these independent leagues where guys can really get competitive minutes, hopefully in a more professional setting than they would be, say, either at a college or in a youth league or something like that, and can really build their game up. And for all those players who don't get scouted by the time they're 16, you know, as we heard from our interview last week with Cameron Young of Plymouth Argyle in the UK, most guys get scouted by the time they're 16. And if they're not ready, they're not getting deals. They're not getting, you know, looks anymore. So they can go to these independent leagues, these late bloomers, develop their game, develop their strength, and then who knows? Get on someone's radar. Jump up into a USL club. Get a good agent, whatever the case may be. So I thank you, Small World Soccer, for bringing this to our attention. And for fans of small time soccer, grassroots soccer, or just soccer in America, like, go check out the NISA official.com website and check out the Independent Cup this weekend. So it's going to be great. Mike, I've just spat a lot out there about the grassroots soccer movement here in the United States. Like, what do you think about that? What do you think about NISA and US? They even mentioned USL League One is starting to grow in both popularity and a number of teams. Like, what's your take on all of this happening in US soccer?
It's awesome. This is what this is what we want. This is what all US soccer fans want. The more soccer that we can get here, the more levels, different levels for the development of the game for these players is fantastic. So I've got, you're not going to get the same type of quality when you're watching these guys than you're watching USL Championship or MLS, just like you're not going to get the same level quality when you're watching MLS as you would to, La Liga, right? There's always going to be a difference in the different levels. But in order for those upper levels to grow, like MLS, like USL Championship, levels like this have to stick around. And just a little figure I'd throw it out there, kind of helps with the whole pro-rel thing too, doesn't it?
Yeah, like if people are really into promotion relegation, which a lot of people are, and a lot of people are passionate about it, yeah, having more soccer and more leagues and more development definitely lets you know that there's room to grow different levels, bring in more talent, and have that promotion relegation eventually. I don't think it's ready now. You've heard me say that on our episodes in the past. I don't think it's ready now. I don't think it's going to be ready in 20 years, but at some point, It's probably going to be pro-rel here in the United States. After we merge the Superliga with Mexico, Canada, and whoever else, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So that was kind of our piece on Charlotte FC, some of the smaller stuff there. I want to take the time now to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Donovan Food Brokerage for sticking with us and supporting us for the last couple of years. Donovan Food Brokerage, who is a food distribution company located here in the Chicago suburbs and delivering and taking care of everyone's needs throughout the Midwest. So look up Donovan Food Brokerage for vending needs, school services, corporate, all that stuff. Donovan will take care of you. Tell him the Sons of a Pitch sent you as well. We also want to thank Nice Premium Iceland Pure Spring Water for sponsoring the show. It's kind of become a joke with us here that we should just sponsor all the hydration breaks with Nice Premium Iceland's Pure Spring Water and the plugs we give them. And Mike, I know you've gotten to try some other product from our other sponsor. Why don't you tell everyone about them?
Yeah, so our other sponsor is Skira Icelandic Water, and we've been doing some MLS live stream reactions, and we have been sponsoring the hydration breaks on those from Skira. So thank you to Skira, and go get it at any local 7-Eleven here in the United States. It is great water, 8.88 pH, naturally alkaline. It's good stuff. So thank you, Skira. Thank you, Donovan Food Brokerage, and Nice Premium Iceland Pure Spring Water for letting us do what we do.
Now back to the soccer talk and back into our bread and butter, the MLS. The MLS is back tournament, especially. The knockout round has commenced. I think we're about halfway through it. We're in the middle of a game right now. Actually, I think San Jose recently took the lead, or early on in the second half. They took a 2-1 lead over their opponent. But let's talk about what's happened. Let's talk about some things that have headlined the MLS's back tournament over the last week or so. So we had Orlando beat Montreal 1-0. Philly Union defeats the New England Revolution 1-0. TFC, sorry to be the one to say it, Mike, they get rocked by New York City in NYCFC's revenge game 3-1. And then probably the most exciting game so far. Sporting Kansas City and Vancouver go scoreless for 90, and then SKC advances 3-1 on penalties. So, Mike, there's a number of different things we could talk about. Orlando gets their first ever knockout game in MLS because they've never made the playoffs before, but they get the win. They advance. That's what you do, right? Philadelphia also advances. A lot of people aren't giving them credit despite how good they've been in recent history. New York City revenge game, and then SKC. Their offense is stymied, but they somehow pull off the victory. Like, what stood out to you in this round of MLS is back?
A couple things. One is the destruction of Group C. That was the group with Toronto FC, Montreal, New England, and DC United. That was touted as kind of a group of death, maybe. That all teams were very, very even, and it was ugly in the knockout round. The first three games they went down, and as we're speaking here about MLS's back tournament, San Jose just scores to make it 3-1 over RSL. So looks like they might pull it off. But what really surprised me was the fact that how ugly the games were. They just weren't pretty soccer. I mean, that was, from what I watched, it was just bad. Except with the exception of New York City. I think that was the only team that actually played well inside those four games. I only caught the first half of the Vancouver Sporting Kansas City game, but NYCFC came out and was extremely, extremely strong. They were on the high press. They were doing everything right. And TFC, it's pretty clear that, they were talking a big game as Daniel Young comes in and says, yes, sweet victory. I still think TFC can win MLS Cup. Yeah, you're right. They might. But NYCFC was a team who had been struggling, and they got off the schneid with that victory against Inter Miami, and they were out to prove, to prove a point that they could take out New York City. And I'll tell you, from what I saw from Toronto, it was pretty clear to me that they didn't give a damn about that game. They came to Orlando for the 3 regular season games, and that was it. They're wanting to get back to Toronto and get to training and try and figure out, Josie Altidor's head or whatever, and move on, because it was that bad. I mean, I would say, New York City was the better team of the night. Guarantee they were, for sure. But, man, Bradley, interception after interception after giveaway and turnover. The defense looked out of it. Omar Gonzalez had one of the worst games he's had in a very, very long time. It was absolutely disgusting, that performance. So I'm hoping that they just want to try and shake this off and get back to the regular season when that happens, wherever they're going to play. But as Nick says, and if Josie got off social media and practice, they'd be even better. Agreed. Josie Altidore, it's something that we might want to talk about. I know your opinion on this is why I'm going to bring it up. But, Josie Altidore, I love the guy. He scored the goal that took MLS Cup for us, and I love him to death. But he's played in the playoffs last season. He played 15 minutes, and that was at the end of MLS Cup final when the game was already over. Then the dude this season barely played in the first couple of games. Then in MLS is back, doesn't play except for 10 minutes in the last game of the group stage, and then is on the bench for the knockout stage. Why are we holding up a designated player spot, paying this guy a ton of money? I don't care if you pay him all the damn money. Pay him whatever the hell you want to pay him. But why are we giving up this designated player spot for a guy who's going to play in like maybe 25% of the games? Maybe.
Yeah, I feel like it was like maybe we can keep our trophy window open for one more season. How much longer does Josie have on his contract, Mike? Is it another year, 2 years? Like, because you're right. Yeah. The fact that he is blocking this DP spot is really holding the team back. Imagine if they if Bradley's gone and Josie's gone, that money off the books and those 2 DP spots and TAM spots, like TFC could do a lot in a short period of time.
Yeah, they took a gamble with this season. And there's no doubt about that. They took a gamble. We talked to Dwayne Rollins in our team preview, and it was all kind of put on the table. If Piatti can stay healthy and Josie can stay healthy, then they've got a chance to win the cup. And that's the case. They still do. But I'm telling you, at the end of this year, it's time to let go. Michael Bradley is not the player he used to be. He's still a good veteran leadership player, maybe worthy of a low-end TAM contract. But, Josie Altidore is not even worth a TAM contract. Honest to God, I don't think he's worth a TAM contract. I wouldn't even give him that. I would actually use the buyout clause on his contract. That's how pissed off I am about how bad he's been playing. So, they need to move on and spend that money somewhere else and get rid of Piatti as well. I mean, he was hurt in preseason. He played a couple games here. He didn't really light it up. He wasn't playing extremely well. He does link well with Pozuelo, who Pozuelo's gold. I wouldn't touch him. But, that's TFC. New York City, though, we got to talk about the team that actually moved on. New York City – Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Like, who are you? Are you the shit team that couldn't beat Orlando, or are you the team that can lay a whooping on TFC? I mean, what is it? I know it's somewhere in the middle. I know they're not going to be that good every night like they were the other day. They're not going to be as bad as they were in the beginning of the season. So New York City's still a strong team, and that was something that I was really looking forward to playing in Vancouver as a Toronto FC fan when before that bullshit penalty for LA Galaxy. I was like, God, give us Vancouver because I don't want to play New York City. New York City's a good team, man. They got a lot of talent, and I can see them doing extremely well for the rest of this tournament and possibly being a dark horse.
Oh yeah, like Daniel Young says, like you get hot. That's how you win tournaments, right? It's the team that's got the hot hand or the hot feet in this case. But you get hot at the right time. You're starting to maybe get a little bit healthier from an NYC perspective. Like if Maxi Morelos is back playing as good as he can, I think that was the headline that I saw on MLSsoccer.com is that he came back and just had himself a game. We all know how dangerous New York City is. If they just play to their potential, they don't even have to exceed potential. If they could just play to their potential, they are one of the favorites in the Eastern Conference. And hey, let's look around that Eastern Conference, Mike. Like, who else is there right now? Philly, Orlando, and to be determined, other team right now, right? Or is New York the fourth team? Is that it?
Yeah.
That's or Columbus, Minnesota, winner of that game coming out.
Yeah, you got Columbus in there as well.
Right. So you're looking as far as maybe history and seeding go, like Philadelphia, but then Columbus is hot. Like, yeah, it's got to be New York City could be the favorite team in the Eastern Conference as we sit here tonight recording Monday night, July 27th. Like, that's kind of a cool thing to think for New York City. Yeah. Kind of a crazy thing to think for the rest of the league that Atlanta's gone, Toronto's gone, Philly squeaks by New England, DC didn't put up a fight at all. Like, how crazy is that, right? NYCFC, undisputed favorite after the knockout round, first round.
Yeah, I can't argue with you on that one, man. I mean, it is definitely Eastern Conference that is not performing very, very well, at least in this tournament. Right. So I don't know. It could be, it could be.
Which kind of brings me to
I would like to see New York. What's that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to see New York kind of get another shot at Philly. I think that first match against Philly at 9 a.m. was just kind of it was a rough one, and Philly was, brought their A game, which good for them. They got the victory to 3 points, but I'd like to see them get a shot at each other again if the bracket could work out that way.
And that was going to be my question to you is, what expectations then do you have from Orlando and Philadelphia? It seemed like Orlando at the beginning of the tournament was like, okay, we'll see what we can do. Well, all of a sudden, Chris Mueller starts playing out of his mind, and Orlando advances. And then you've got some other teams that kind of fall flat on their face. Meanwhile, you've got a Philly team who is trying to reach their potential, trying to outplay their performances of past years and things of that nature. So, I mean, if I think the potential for Philly is they win the East part of the bracket. As far as Orlando, I feel like they've already met their potential and probably exceeded it, winning one knockout game. So, again, for me in the MLS, you're bad until you win something, or you're good until you start losing a lot. So, Atlanta United for me was the best team in MLS for a long time. Clearly, no longer. Orlando, you're still a bottom team in the MLS until you go and win this tournament or win another knockout round game at least. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it, all of it there, Mike. But should we touch on a little bit in the West now? Sporting Kansas City and Vancouver?
Yeah. That's Sporting Kansas City. I thought they were going to get through that game no problem. Vancouver was missing a lot of their players, and I don't know how they even stayed in the game with Sporting Kansas City. I just say I fell asleep at halftime, and that was I didn't even really watch most of the first half, to be honest with you. But what did you see in this game? I mean, obviously Sporting Kansas City goes through, but at the point of penalty kicks, that's a toss-up, right? Either team could have won that in penalties.
Right.
Sporting, good team. They've done well here, but a result like that in the first round of the knockout stage, I think I'm sensing a little bit of a trend here, and maybe I'm wrong, but the teams that are doing well in this knockout portion are teams that are really starved for success. Like Orlando City, obviously starved for success, right? Philadelphia, they've never won anything, right? So they got a chance to win a cup. So they want to do it. New York City, yeah, they've won things in the regular season, but they've never won a cup. They've never won a playoff. Really, they won a playoff game, but they haven't done well in the playoffs.
Right.
And so they're like trying to prove a point, maybe get that monkey off their back a little bit. Sporting Kansas City, they're like, yeah, okay. Like, all right, this is a game. Vancouver really wants success. They come out, they play great. You're seeing it tonight with San Jose and Real Salt Lake. Real Salt Lake, they've been successful over the last couple of years. They've made the playoffs the last couple of years. San Jose, they've made the playoffs like once in the last 2 or 3 seasons, and they got knocked out in the first round. So they haven't had a ton of success. So I'm thinking some of these teams are like, whoa, hey, this doesn't mean anything anymore. It's over now. Like, yeah, there's the CONCACAF Champions League spot. Yeah, there's the $1.1 million divided up by 50 people. That means really basically nothing to these guys.
Still more than you had.
I'm thinking that it's really about the success, and these teams that have focused on the regular season and have done well in the playoffs are more like, okay, we played the 3 games that really mattered now, and now we're just kind of having fun, and if we go home, we go home. Who cares? There's never going to be another MLS's back tournament. At least we hope so. God, knock on plastic. But yeah, that's my thought. What are your thoughts, Nick?
Well, that's it. There's never going to be another MLS's back tournament, so you want to be the guy that wins it. And these at the end of the day are professional athletes who want to win and who want to show how good they are. So there's probably a subconscious letdown, but again, that's why it's up to the coaching staff. That's why it's up to the captains. That's why it's up to some of these veterans to motivate your team. Do you balance that with, hey, these games don't actually count towards the regular season? Maybe that $1 million purse isn't as big as it looks, on a newspaper or website headline.
Right.
At the end of the day, though, you want to win games, and you want to be competitive. You want to be taken seriously. You want to be professional about your craft here. And you know what? This is the perfect time to set a tone for the rest of the season. You develop good habits. Winning begets winning. Begets? Anyway, winning breeds winning. So let's win this tournament. Let's use that as a springboard. Let's maybe get some younger guys some more experience, so when the regular season does come about, you have better depth. You have those guys who know what their role is when they get on the pitch. In this Vancouver SKC game, Mike, I'm going to think that the statistics here might show your theory wrong, or at least this is the exception, because Sporting Kansas City ended up with 37 shots, 8 on goal. Like, that's a ridiculous amount of offense. They had 7 shots blocked. Like, SKC came to play. They had 63% of possession. They just couldn't find the back of the net. Now, part of that was maybe they weren't taking the best shots, but I'm looking at the spray chart here, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So a third of those shots were from outside the 18. 2/3 of their shots, they had like 22 shots inside the 18. Like, they were ready to play. I think part of it is maybe a little fatigue set in playing in the humidity and heat in Florida. Part of it was definitely Vancouver's goalkeeper, Hassal. Did you hear about the story behind this guy?
Yeah, I know he's a homegrown player who made his MLS debut. That's about all I know. So tell me more.
Yeah, so Maxime Crepeau, their starting goalkeeper, who's had a really good tournament, ended up breaking his finger. I forget exactly when and how that occurred, but he broke his finger, couldn't play. Backup goalkeeper had to leave the tournament and go home due to a family matter. So now you've got this kid making his first ever MLS appearance, first ever start, maybe second appearance, I forget exactly, in the MLS's back tournament against an SKC team who has come ready to play and dominate, and has a great performance. He even said after the game, like, I wasn't nervous about the shootout. Like, this is what goalies live for, is being a hero in a shootout. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to see his team through, but Hasal had a great performance. So a good story, something you can take if you're a Vancouver team, if you're coaching, if you're in management, if you're, an ancillary player there, you can take and look at this kid stepped up for us. We need to make sure we have that same kind of dedication and focus throughout the rest of the season. So I know they say there's no moral victories, but Vancouver can take this and build from it as their season goes on. And Sporting Kansas City can say, look, we were unlucky that we didn't score during regulation. Let's put that behind us and go out and win the next game. So, Mike, maybe Sporting Kansas City is the exception to your the teams without success have been winning. But then again, SKC has not lived up to any of their expectations the last 2 or 3 seasons either.
Right. No, that's for sure. So, a great story there. That young kid, Hasal, especially when you told me the stats, I was like, oh yeah, that's he probably had a really good game, lots of saves and all that. So, looks like we got another comment here, and from Junio Rudy. Is James Sands the next NYC player to go abroad? I would assume so. He has definitely kind of made his own there along the back line and defensive midfield there with Alexander Ring, and he's looking good. I mean, he had a good game last night against TFC, really played well. So I could see him definitely being the next player to move on overseas. What do you think about James Sands?
Yeah, I was able to do just some quick internet sleuthing here. And James Sands, kid's 20 years old. He's from New York, part of NYCFC, so obviously connected to that City Football Group organization. So he's going to have opportunities within that group. Additionally, they like to sell their players or loan them out. So he's going to get looks. He's going to get opportunities just for the fact that he's with City Football Group. He has appearances for the U.S. under-23 team. So that's perfect. And he's getting professional minutes between Louisville City and New York City. So he's been in a professional setting. Like, that's what you want out of your young kid, especially if you're going to go abroad. Last piece of the puzzle here, Mike, if you look at his profile on the website Transfer Market, spelled just like it sounds, except they leave off that last E for anyone who wants to go look it up. Transfer Market has him valued at $1.1 million. There are a lot of MLS starters who are, only 6 figures valued on Transfer Market because they're in their prime of their career and they're in the MLS, whereas Sands is an up-and-coming young guy, who's got at least another 10 years on his career, barring injury, barring anything else. So that plus $1 million price tag, I think, shows that there is going to be interest in him overseas. And yeah, I think that's a great comment. Thank you, Junio Rudy, for letting us know that, you're thinking of James Sands and that we've got to keep an eye on him. And hey, if NYCFC gets some transfer fees, who knows how they're going to spend it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, in that time while we've been talking, Real Salt Lake does get a goal back against San Jose. So we're now currently in the 79th minute with San Jose up 3-2 now over RSL. So definitely looks like a good one here. Good finish next 15, 20 minutes or so. But I don't know, man. I kind of want to watch the game.
Well, we've only got about 15 minutes or so left on our show here, Mike. So let's get to our last segment. We were talking about the penalty shootout in Kansas City and Vancouver, and there's been some buzz, as there always is whenever SKC has a good game. Why Tim Melia isn't getting any USMNT attention, why he isn't getting any sort of call-ups or consideration. And that kind of news taken into combination with Zach Steffen's injury, kind of the decline of Brad Guzan and Atlanta United's decline, really has the U.S. goalkeeping pool all shooken up a little bit. There is no definitive number one anymore in my mind. A lot of people still think it's Steffen. A lot of people think it's Brad Guzan. But I don't think there's a definitive number one. And when we go through the next World Cup qualifying cycle, you've got to have your veteran, you've got to have your starter, and then who's that number two? Do you want another potential starter, or do you want the guy with experience, someone who you keep him there so he learns for the next qualifying cycle? Mike, who's your starting goalkeeper? If the U.S. started World Cup qualifying tomorrow, who's your keeper?
Well, if it started tomorrow, it depends if Zach Steffen is injured or not. If he is not injured, he's my starter. No question about it. He's definitely got to be the starter for the USMNT moving forward. He has the most talent out of all those guys. He's young, but he's my starter, no doubt.
Sure. So let's look forward now when U.S. starts World Cup qualifying. And sidebar, CONCACAF did release its new format for how there's going to be qualifying. Crazy system. I'll touch on it in a minute. When qualifying starts, Mike, do you still go with Steffen, or do you wait to see whether or not a guy like Hamid plays better, like Melia or Fry maybe get their chance at a call up? What about Sean Johnson, Matt Turner from New England? Who's been in camp? I think he was in the January camp. So do you still think Steffen is the guy when qualifying starts?
Yeah, I do. I think Stefan Fry will never get a look for some reason. I don't know why, but he just never seems to get a look for the USMNT. Matt Turner, yeah, okay. Melia, yeah. I think Melia 2 years ago probably would have been. I think 2 years ago is when he should have had that chance. Now,
yeah.
I don't know. I got to go with Steffen. I can't see any of those other guys really taking that spot from him if it started tomorrow. That's just my thought on it.
Sure. You're right. Tim Melia is 34 years old, and I do think that the U.S. just kind of passed them up. They were just kind of riding out that same roster for too long, and the same issues that plagued them not qualifying for the World Cup kind of kept Tim Melia from not getting a shot, unfortunately. And when you have a lot of coaching turnover like the U.S. has had between, Klinsmann and Bradley and Arena and everything that's been going on, your goal, you can just throw Howard or Guzan back there and know you're set. You don't have to worry about it. So I think he was a victim of that as much as anything else. As far as other guys to watch, keep an eye on Ethan Horvath, who's playing overseas. Keep an eye on David Ochoa, who could be one of the next dual citizenship, dual eligibility battles between Mexico and the United States for his goalkeeping talents. But yeah, at this point, I think you got to go Steffen Guzan still. I think they've got the experience and the skill. I would like to see Sean Johnson and Matt Turner get some more call-ups and get some more experience and see maybe they push Steffen and Guzan into the 2 or the 3 spot. To kind of give a final thought on it, we actually got a tweet from a Twitter account at US Keeper. So go ahead, follow US Keeper. Tons of US tweets, tons of goalkeeping perspective. And he says he's a believer that the third keeper on any squad needs to be a veteran with the national team, and Guzan fits that role throughout the next set of World Cup qualifying. He thinks that Steffen and Horvath and Johnson and Turner and even Hamid can move up the depth chart with the next year. He also gives us some really cool data on U.S. goalkeeping. Since the 1978 World Cup qualifying cycle, they've had 12 different keepers. He says 13. I think it's 12. I might be counting wrong. Over the course of 125 World Cup qualifiers. Think about that. We've had 125 qualifying games, 12 goalies. And if you look in the 2010, 2014, and 2018 World Cup cycles, it's only Tim Howard and Brad Guzan. Like, that's it. We've only had those 2 goalies as our those 2 guys as our goalies for the last 3 World Cup cycles. That's insane to think, Mike. Like, have we developed anyone else in that time? Or is it just these guys were so good? I mean, what do you think, Mike? Is goalkeeping a real concern now?
It is. It is. If Stefan can stay healthy, I think it wouldn't be as much of a concern. But I really do think it is a big concern right now. Stefan, he has the talent. There's no question about that. But it's kind of like that striker position, right? I mean, there's just a lack of depth there. The midfield, there's tons of depth for the USMNT. Defense, yeah, it's a good amount, but yeah, the striker position is just not. It's not the strong suit. So I don't know. I think it's approaching that for sure.
Yeah, and the U.S. used to be the land where goalkeepers came from. How many goalkeepers were setting even Premier League records? Tim Howard and Brad Friedel. Those guys were playing over there. And Tony Meola, a legend of U.S. goalkeeping and World Cup stature, right? So we'll see who comes up. I think it's just we need to be exposed to them more as fans of U.S. soccer. Like, it's just been Howard and Kazan for so long. Now let's see who's next. Greg Berhalter, give us a goalkeeping competition. And MLS, bring back goalie wars for the All-Star games. Bring it back. We want to see him duke it out. Let's get this goalkeeping competition decided in old school fashion if we need to. But anyway, Mike, that's my rant on some U.S. goalkeeping and some U.S. roster type stuff. Real quickly, as far as World Cup qualifying goes, for CONCACAF, we still get 3 qualifiers for the 2022 World Cup, and a 4th goes into a playoff. The way it's decided is our top 5 ranked countries get into the final round, and then countries ranked 6 through 35 are divided into 6 groups. The top 6 ranked teams will get highest seeding, however they work that out with the scheduling and whatnot. And then the winners of each group will play each other, and the top 3 join the final 5 or the original 5, and that group of 8. So we no longer have a hex; we have an octo. We have the octagon now.
Okay.
Those 8 will then play for the final 3 secured spots in the 4th playoff spot. So obviously, advantage U.S., Mexico, Honduras, Costa Rica, and who's the 5th team? Jamaica, maybe. I can't recall off the top of my head. They're through. You've got out of those top 5, you've got 3 out of 8 chance at least to make it to the World Cup. So pretty good odds, and you don't have to kill yourself through qualifying.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And,
yeah,
it's a blessing in disguise for Canada. That I can tell you. The Canadian men's national team was pretty much screwed that they didn't beat the U.S. twice. That kind of took them out of the qualifying process with this new qualifying based off of rankings. Maybe a conspiracy theory. Maybe Canada started the coronavirus to let Canada into possible World Cup qualification. I don't know. Just saying. Just a thought. That might be one of the best conspiracy theories ever. But so
the country with the universal healthcare system letting the worldwide pandemic go on to promote their soccer team. Got it. Makes sense.
Yes, exactly. Not really benefits Canada because they were pretty much out. So that's all I can. And again, get it away from the rankings. I'm glad that it comes down to actually playing on the field and not the ranking points. Well, yeah, they beat this team and this team was ranked here because somebody said so. So now we're going to give 12 points over here and 16 points over there and 18 points there. Now, screw all that. Get out on the field, play the damn game. Whoever wins moves on, and let's keep playing soccer. That's the way it should be to me. So I love it, the fact that it's gone back to kind of an original format, and it benefits the U.S. men's national team as well.
I'm with you, and I think give it one full cycle without a pandemic, and the Nations League will kind of sort out some of the top teams from the bottom teams because they do have promotion and relegation within their Nations League groups. So then at that point, I feel more confident in basing qualifying off of FIFA rankings because you've got the best teams playing each other, and then you'll see who emerges out of out of the best teams, out of the best group. That way you don't have, a Belize or St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yeah, that's how it's called. Yeah, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, like coming out of nowhere and jumping into the top group, and all of a sudden they're in the mix for World Cup qualifying, which would be fun and entertaining, but not something FIFA would want in their World Cup. So give it a full cycle and a couple of Nations Leagues, and I think it'll sort itself out. But I'm totally with you. Let's decide it on the field. With that, Mike, I think I'm running out of words here. What else you got?
What else I got is in our conversation there, Real Salt Lake and San Jose, RSL gets a straight red card on a tackle, which on the replay didn't seem like a straight red. So RSL down to 10 men. San Jose takes advantage with a goal from who else but our friend Chris Wondolowski, the all-time leading goal scorer in MLS history, in the most Wando of goals that you could ever see. Kind of just bounced off his leg, off his shin, and just kind of scooted past the goal line to get in. Now I got a question, though. So he's the all-time leading goal scorer at however many. Does this goal count?
Oh, that's interesting. It's an MLS sanctioned game, so I'm guessing it would count.
I would think so, right? Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see, because that is a question, because you've got it's the MLS is back tournament. It's the knockout portion, and it's not really regular season. Yeah. It's not really playoffs. So I don't know, but either way, I don't think he cares as long as San Jose keeps moving on and that. But that's pretty much all I got. It looks like Zachary Wilson jumped in here at the end. Hopefully they can make it now. So thanks, Zachary, for coming on and joining us here at the end. Make sure you watch the replay. And Nick, I'm pretty much done. Thanks again to all of our viewers, our listeners, our sponsors. Really appreciate you guys letting us do what we do and jumping into the conversation. That's what it's all about. And hopefully the tech was a little bit better tonight. Still had a few issues because I did have to talk about it. And other than that, take it home.
Hey, everyone, thank you for joining the conversation. Remember to follow us on Twitter at SOP Soccer. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Sons of a Pitch Soccer. Get in on our subscriber challenge where you could win a gift card, if you like taking Mike's money, as I'm sure y'all do. Additionally, we're on Facebook, www.sonsofapitchsoccer.com. We are looking for new sponsors for our YouTube channel and live streams, and as you can see, we've upgraded some of our tech. All of the money we get goes right back into our show. So thank you to Donovan Food Brokerage, Nice Premium Iceland Pure Spring Water, and Skyra for sponsoring us, for getting us this far. But mostly and especially thank you to our listeners for giving us a platform, for bending your ears to us for an hour every week or so. It's always great talking with everyone. Have a wonderful night. Enjoy the MLS is back.